This book is about that exact moment. The moment when everything feels intense. When the stakes are high. When emotions rise. When fear whispers. When doubt gets loud. And you have to decide. Life does not test us when we are relaxed and comfortable. It tests us in interviews. In arguments. In business risks. In financial uncertainty. In leadership. In crisis. Pressure is not rare. Pressure is life. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they lose clarity when it matters most. A calm mind is a competitive advantage. Clear thinking is a superpower. And emotional control is strength. In this audiobook, you are not going to hear empty motivation. You are going to learn how your brain reacts under stress. You are going to understand why you freeze, panic, or overthink. And more importantly, you are going to train yourself to respond instead of react. You will learn how to stay calm in conflict, make smart decisions under uncertainty, control fear instead of being controlled by it, think strategically when others are overwhelmed, and build mental strength that does not collapse under pressure. This is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming stable. This is not about avoiding stress. It is about mastering it. By the end of this journey, pressure will no longer feel like an enemy. It will feel like a signal that your growth is happening, a signal that you are stepping into something bigger. Because remember this, you do not rise to your goals in moments of stress. You fall to the level of your mental training. So if you are ready to train your mind, if you are ready to think clearly when others panic, if you are ready to become mentally strong when it matters most, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Psychology of Pressure. Why we freeze or fail. Imagine this. You are sitting in an important interview. Your palms begin to sweat. Your heart beats faster. Your mouth feels dry. Suddenly, a simple question is asked. A question you know the answer to. But your mind goes blank. Why does this happen? Why do intelligent, capable people freeze at the worst possible moment? To understand this, we must first understand what pressure really is. Pressure is not just a feeling. It is a biological event. It is a psychological reaction. It is your body preparing for survival. And the truth is, your brain cannot always tell the difference between a tiger in the jungle and a presentation in the office. What pressure really is. Pressure happens when perceived demand exceeds perceived ability. Notice the word perceived. Pressure is not always about real danger. It is about your brain's interpretation of threat. When you believe that your reputation is at risk, your income is at risk, your status is at risk, your relationships are at risk, your brain activates a survival mechanism that is thousands of years old. This mechanism is called the fight, flight, or freeze response. It was designed to save your life. But in the modern world, it often sabotages your performance. The fight, flight, or freeze response. Long before offices and social media existed, humans survived in dangerous environments. When a predator appeared, your brain had to act instantly. There was no time for deep thinking. The amygdala, the emotional alarm system of your brain, would detect danger and send an emergency signal. Immediately, your heart rate increased. Your breathing became rapid. Blood rushed to your muscles. Digestion slowed down. Logical thinking reduced. Your body released stress hormones, mainly adrenaline and cortisol. This prepared you to fight the threat, run away from the threat, or freeze to avoid detection. In the jungle, this response was perfect. In modern life, it often works against you. Because today, your predator is a difficult boss, an audience watching you speak, a financial decision, a confrontation. Your brain reacts the same way. But here is the problem. When the survival system activates, it pulls energy away from the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, reasoning, and decision-making. Instead, control shifts to the amygdala, which prioritizes emotional reaction over rational thought. This is called an amygdala hijack. And this is why smart people sometimes make very poor decisions under stress. How cortisol affects your thinking. Let's talk about cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. In small amounts, it is helpful. It increases alertness. It sharpens attention. But in high-pressure situations, cortisol floods your system. When cortisol levels rise too high, memory recall weakens. Creativity drops. Complex reasoning slows. Impulse control decreases. Your brain shifts from long-term thinking to short-term survival. This is why you say things you regret in arguments. You panic sell investments during market drops. You accept bad deals out of fear. You forget prepared answers in interviews. It's not because you lack intelligence. It's because your biology is overriding your strategy. Pressure temporarily lowers access to your highest thinking abilities. And unless you train for it, you become controlled by it. Real danger versus perceived danger. Here is one of the most important truths in this chapter. Your brain does not respond to reality. It responds to interpretation. There are two types of danger. Real physical danger. Psychological or social danger. If a car is speeding toward you, that is real danger. But if someone criticizes your work, that is social discomfort, not physical threat. Yet your brain reacts almost the same way. Why? Because historically, being rejected from the tribe meant death. Social exclusion once meant you could not survive alone. So your brain still treats embarrassment, failure, and rejection as survival threats. This is why public speaking feels terrifying. Criticism feels painful. Failure feels overwhelming. But here is the key difference. Modern pressure rarely threatens your life. It threatens your ego. And when you understand this, something powerful happens. You begin to separate "I am in danger" from "I am uncomfortable." This awareness alone reduces the intensity of pressure. Why we freeze. Most people understand fight and flight. But freeze is different. Freeze happens when your brain believes, "I cannot win. I cannot escape." So it shuts down. You hesitate. You procrastinate. You overthink. You avoid deciding. Freezing is not weakness. It is your nervous system trying to protect you from potential failure. But in high-performance environments, freezing is costly. Opportunities disappear. Leadership credibility drops. Momentum dies. And the tragedy is this. Many people label themselves as bad under pressure. But the truth is, they were never trained to handle it. The shift from logic to survival. Let's make this very clear. When pressure rises, the amygdala becomes louder. The prefrontal cortex becomes quieter. Emotion becomes stronger. Logic becomes weaker. Short-term relief becomes more attractive than long-term success. This explains a why people quit too early, a why leaders react emotionally, a why arguments escalate, a why fear dominates decision-making. Pressure narrows your thinking. Instead of seeing possibilities, you see threats. Instead of analyzing options, you react impulsively. Unless you learn to regulate your nervous system. Because here is the powerful truth. You cannot eliminate pressure, but you can train your response to it. Pressure does not break you. Let this sink in. Pressure does not break you. It exposes you. It reveals your level of preparation. It reveals your emotional regulation skill. It reveals your mental conditioning. A trained mind under pressure becomes sharper. An untrained mind becomes reactive. The difference is not talent. The difference is awareness and practice. And that is why this book exists. Not to remove stress from your life, but to teach you how to stay stable when stress appears. Because when you understand the biology of pressure, you stop taking your reactions personally. You stop saying, "I'm bad under stress." Instead, you say, "My nervous system is activated. Now I will regulate it." That shift changes everything. Foundation for mastery. In this chapter, you learned. Pressure is perception. Stress is biological. Cortisol affects cognition. The amygdala can hijack logic. Freezing is protection, not weakness. And most importantly, pressure does not break you. It exposes your mental training. The good news? Mental training can be built. And in the next chapter, we begin with the most powerful skill of all, emotional control. Because when you control your emotions, you regain control of your thinking. And when you control your thinking, you control your decisions. And when you control your decisions, you control your future. Take a breath. We're just getting started. Chapter 2: Emotional Control. The skill that changes everything. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said something in anger and regretted it minutes later? Have you ever made a decision while stressed and wished you had waited? That moment, that instant reaction, is the difference between emotional control and emotional surrender. In Chapter 1, you learned how pressure activates the survival system. Now we go one level deeper. Because understanding pressure is powerful. But controlling your response to it, that changes your life. The emotional hijack. When pressure rises, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, sends an emergency signal. It does not ask for logic. It demands reaction. This is called an emotional hijack. In an emotional hijack, your heart rate spikes. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tighten. Your voice changes. Your thinking narrows. And most importantly, your impulse control weakens. This is why arguments escalate quickly. Emails are sent too soon. Decisions are made too fast. Fear takes control. An emotional hijack feels urgent. But urgency is not always truth. And emotional control begins with one simple skill. The pause. The power of the pause. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power. Most people never use that space. They react instantly. But mentally strong individuals train themselves to pause. Even 2 seconds of silence can lower emotional intensity. Give the prefrontal cortex time to re-engage. Prevent damage that cannot be undone. The pause is not weakness. It is discipline. And discipline creates clarity. The 90-second rule. Neuroscience shows something fascinating. An emotional chemical reaction in the body lasts about 60 to 90 seconds if you do not feed it with thoughts. That means anger, fear, embarrassment, the physical wave, passes quickly. But most people replay the story in their mind. How dare they say that? This always happens to me. I'm going to fail. And by repeating the thought, they restart the chemical reaction. Emotional control means allowing the wave to pass without adding fuel. Feel it. Observe it. But don't feed it. Tactical breathing. Regulating the nervous system. You cannot think clearly if your nervous system is in chaos. One of the fastest ways to calm your brain is through breathing. Because breathing directly affects the vagus nerve, the pathway that signals safety to your brain. Here is a simple technique used by high-performance professionals. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Repeat. This slows the heart rate, reduces cortisol, signals to your brain, there is no tiger. The body calms first, then the mind follows. Emotional control is physical before it is mental. Labeling emotions, the hidden superpower. Most people say, I'm stressed, I'm angry, I'm overwhelmed. But those are general words. When you label emotions precisely, the brain shifts from reaction to analysis. Instead of saying, I'm anxious, I'm afraid of being judged, I'm uncertain about the outcome, I'm disappointed in myself, Specific labeling reduces amygdala activity. It activates the thinking brain. It turns chaos into information. And when emotion becomes information, it becomes manageable. Separating facts from feelings. In pressure situations, feelings feel like facts. I feel like I'm going to fail. I feel like they don't respect me. I feel like this is a disaster. But feelings are interpretations, not reality. Emotionally strong people ask, what are the facts? For example, fact, the presentation had mistakes. Feeling, I'm terrible at this. Fact, someone disagreed with me. Feeling, they don't value me. When you separate fact from story, clarity returns. Emotion fades. Logic strengthens. This simple mental separation prevents countless poor decisions. Responding instead of reacting. There is a major difference between reaction and response. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. Reaction is emotional. Response is thoughtful. Reaction is survival mode. Response is leadership mode. When you react, you are controlled by the situation. When you respond, you control the situation. This does not mean you suppress emotions. It means you experience them without surrendering to them. That is strength. Building emotional awareness. You cannot control what you do not notice. Many people are unaware of their emotional triggers. Certain words, certain tones, certain types of criticism. When triggered, they explode or shut down. Emotional awareness means studying yourself. When do I lose composure? What situations make me defensive? What kind of pressure makes me doubt myself? Awareness is not judgment. It is data collection. The more you understand your emotional patterns, the more control you gain over them. Calm is training. Here is the truth. Some people appear naturally calm, but calm under pressure is rarely personality. It is repetition. It is exposure. It is mental conditioning. Pilots train in flight simulators. Athletes train under fatigue. Soldiers train under controlled stress. Why? So when real pressure appears, their nervous system recognizes it. You can do the same. Practice staying calm in small frustrations. Slow internet. Long lines. Minor criticism. If you cannot stay calm in small stress, you will not stay calm in major stress. Emotional control is built daily, not during crisis. The cost of losing emotional control. Let's be honest. Emotional reactions destroy careers, relationships, reputations, opportunities. One angry message, one impulsive decision, one uncontrolled moment. And sometimes the damage cannot be undone. But here is the powerful part. Emotional control builds authority. When you remain steady while others panic, people notice. When you stay calm in conflict, you gain influence. When you think clearly while others react emotionally, you gain advantage. Calm is power. The core lesson of this chapter. Emotions are natural, but they are not commands. They are signals. And signals can be observed, understood, and managed. When pressure rises, remember. Pause. Breathe. Label the emotion. Separate fact from story. Choose response over reaction. This is not suppression. This is mastery. And when you master emotion, you unlock clarity. Chapter 3. Clarity over chaos. Training your mind to think logically under pressure. Pressure does something dangerous. It makes everything feel urgent. It makes small problems feel massive. It makes simple decisions feel complicated. It makes your mind feel crowded. And when the mind becomes crowded, clarity disappears. But here is the truth. Pressure does not create chaos. Untrained thinking creates chaos. In this chapter, you will learn how to protect your clarity, even when everything around you feels intense. Why pressure clouds your thinking. When stress rises, your brain narrows its focus. This is called cognitive narrowing. It was useful in ancient survival situations. If a predator appeared, you needed tunnel vision. But today, tunnel vision can hurt you. Instead of seeing options, you see threats. Instead of thinking strategically, you think emotionally. Instead of analyzing calmly, you rush. Your brain shifts from complex thinking to simplified survival mode. And when thinking becomes simplified, mistakes increase. The goal is not to eliminate pressure. The goal is to widen your thinking while under pressure. Decision fatigue, the hidden drain. Every decision you make consumes mental energy. What to wear, what to reply, what to prioritize, what to ignore. By the time you face a high-pressure moment, your mental energy may already be low. This is called decision fatigue. When decision fatigue sets in, you choose easy over correct. You avoid difficult conversations. You delay important decisions. You become impulsive. Clarity requires energy. And one way to protect clarity is to reduce unnecessary decisions in daily life. High performers simplify routine choices. They create structure so their mind is available for important thinking. Because clarity is not just about intelligence. It is about energy management. The three-question clarity rule. When pressure hits, your thoughts race. So instead of thinking about everything, ask only 3 questions. What is actually happening? What is within my control? What is the next logical step? Notice how simple that is. Not the next 10 steps. Not the worst-case scenario. Just the next logical step. Pressure overwhelms when we try to solve everything at once. Clarity returns when we focus on what is immediate and controllable. Simplicity is power. Mental clutter versus structured thinking. An untrained mind jumps randomly. What if this fails? What will they think? What if I lose? What if I'm wrong? This is mental clutter. Structured thinking is different. It organizes thought into sequence. For example, problem, options, consequences, decision. When you give your brain structure, it relaxes. Because structure reduces uncertainty. And uncertainty is what fuels anxiety. You do not need more intelligence under pressure. You need better mental organization. First principles thinking. Under pressure, people rely on assumptions. They always do this. This never works. I'm just bad at this. But assumptions are shortcuts. And shortcuts under pressure are dangerous. First principles thinking means breaking a problem down to basic truths. Instead of asking, what do people usually do? What is fundamentally true here? For example, if a business deal feels risky, ask, what is the actual financial exposure? What data do I have? What are the measurable outcomes? When you remove emotion and return to fundamentals, clarity strengthens. Emotion exaggerates. Facts stabilize. Slowing down to think faster. This sounds strange, but sometimes the fastest way to solve a problem is to slow down. When pressure rises, people rush decisions to relieve discomfort. But rushing often creates more problems. Slowing down allows a better risk evaluation, a creative alternatives, long-term thinking, a reduced regret. Even a 60-second mental pause before a big decision can dramatically improve outcomes. Speed feels powerful, but precision is powerful. Avoiding overthinking. Now here is the balance. Clarity is not overthinking. Overthinking happens when you replay scenarios repeatedly. You search for perfect certainty. You delay action out of fear. Overthinking feels productive, but it is often disguised anxiety. Clarity asks, do I have enough information to move forward? Perfection is impossible, but informed action is achievable. Mentally strong individuals accept calculated uncertainty. They do not wait for perfect comfort. Thinking in probabilities. Pressure often pushes us into extremes. This will be a disaster. This will ruin everything. But reality is rarely extreme. Instead of thinking in absolutes, think in probabilities. What is the most likely outcome? What is the worst realistic outcome? What is the best realistic outcome? When you quantify possibilities, fear shrinks. Your brain prefers measurable risk over vague threat. Clarity grows when emotion becomes analysis. High performers simplify complexity. When leaders face crisis, they do not say, "This is overwhelming." They say, "What are the core variables?" They reduce complexity to essentials. Because complexity fuels confusion. Simplicity fuels execution. If you ever feel overwhelmed, try this. Write the problem in one sentence. Not a paragraph. Not a story. One sentence. If you cannot define the problem clearly, you cannot solve it clearly. Mental rehearsal. Clarity improves with exposure. Athletes mentally rehearse competitions. Pilots simulate emergencies. Executives rehearse negotiations. Why? Because familiarity reduces cognitive overload. If you mentally rehearse difficult scenarios before they happen, your brain recognizes them when they appear, and recognition reduces panic. When something feels familiar, your brain says, "I've seen this before. I can handle it." Preparation builds clarity. The core truth of this chapter: pressure narrows thinking, but trained thinking widens perspective. Clarity is not something you hope for. It is something you build. You protect your energy. You simplify problems. You structure your thoughts. You slow down when necessary. You think in probabilities. And suddenly, chaos becomes manageable. The situation may still be intense, but your mind is steady. And when your mind is steady, your decisions improve. Chapter 4. The Decision-Making Blueprint of Mentally Strong People. Every day, you make decisions. Small ones, medium ones, and sometimes life-changing ones. But under pressure, decision-making becomes heavier. The stakes feel higher. The risks feel bigger. The fear feels louder. And in those moments, most people either rush, avoid, or overthink. But mentally strong individuals follow a structure. They don't rely on mood. They rely on method. This chapter is about that method. Why indecision is more dangerous than wrong decisions. Let's begin with a hard truth. Indecision drains more energy than action. When you delay a decision, your mind replays it repeatedly. Anxiety increases. Confidence decreases. Opportunities shrink. A wrong decision can be corrected, but no decision. That keeps you stuck. Movement creates feedback. Feedback creates improvement. The goal is not perfect decisions. The goal is intelligent movement. The OODA loop, a powerful framework. One of the most effective decision-making systems ever developed is called the OODA loop. It stands for observe, orient, decide. Let's break it down. 1. Observe. Gather facts. Not opinions. Not assumptions. What is actually happening? Remove emotion. Remove story. Just data. 2. Orient. Interpret the information. What does this mean? What are the variables? What patterns do I recognize? This is where experience and logic combine. 3. Decide. Choose a direction. Not the perfect direction. The best available direction. 4. Act. Execute quickly and confidently. Then observe again. The power of the system is speed and adaptability. Mentally strong individuals don't freeze. They cycle through decisions efficiently. They adjust based on feedback. They stay flexible. And flexibility under pressure is strength. The 40-70 rule. Avoiding paralysis. Another powerful principle used in high-stakes environments is the 40-70 rule. The idea is simple. If you have less than 40% of the information, don't decide. If you wait for more than 70%, you've waited too long. Why? Because waiting for perfect certainty creates delay, and delay under pressure can be costly. Most decisions in life will never come with 100% clarity. You must learn to act with partial information. Confidence does not come from certainty. It comes from trust in your ability to adjust. Reversible versus irreversible decisions. Not all decisions are equal. Some decisions are reversible. Some are permanent. This distinction changes everything. If a decision is reversible, move fast. You can correct it. If a decision is irreversible, slow down. Think deeper. Pressure often makes reversible decisions feel permanent. And that exaggeration creates fear. Before hesitating, ask, "Can I undo this if needed?" If yes, then action is usually better than delay. Risk assessment without fear. Under stress, the brain magnifies risk. It focuses on worst-case scenarios. But mentally strong individuals evaluate risk rationally. What is the real downside? What is the probability of that downside? Can I survive it? Often, the imagined catastrophe is far worse than reality. Fear exaggerates. Logic measures. When you measure risk clearly, it shrinks to manageable size. The cost of emotional decisions. Emotional decisions are fast. Strategic decisions are intentional. When anger decides, damage follows. When fear decides, opportunity disappears. When ego decides, relationships suffer. This does not mean you ignore emotion. It means you consult it, but do not let it vote alone. Emotion is one advisor at the table. Logic must be the final authority. The discipline of pre-commitment. High performers make certain decisions before pressure arrives. They pre-decide. For example, if the market drops 20%, I will not panic sell. If someone criticizes me publicly, I will respond calmly. If I feel overwhelmed, I will pause before replying. Pre-commitment reduces emotional reaction. Because when pressure hits, the rule is already set. You do not negotiate with fear. You follow the system. The power of deadlines. Without deadlines, decisions expand endlessly. You keep analyzing. You keep reconsidering. Deadlines force clarity. They create urgency without panic. When facing a difficult decision, give yourself a time boundary. I will decide by tomorrow at 6 p.m. This protects you from overthinking. Structure creates strength. Trusting your training. At some point, analysis must stop, and trust must begin. If you have gathered facts, if you have evaluated risk, if you have structured your thinking, then act. Doubt will whisper. Fear will question. But remember, confidence grows after action, not before it. The mentally strong are not fearless. They are decisive despite fear. The blueprint in action. Let's summarize your decision-making blueprint. Gather facts, not stories. Interpret calmly. Act with 40 to 70% clarity. Move fast on reversible decisions. Slow down on permanent ones. Evaluate risk logically. Pre-commit to principles. Set deadlines. Adjust as you learn. This is how leaders operate. Not perfectly, but consistently. The core lesson of this chapter. Under pressure, emotions scream. But systems whisper, and systems win. When you rely on structure instead of mood, your decisions become stable. When your decisions become stable, your outcomes improve. And when your outcomes improve, confidence becomes natural. Because confidence is not personality. It is evidence. Evidence that you can decide. Evidence that you can adapt. Evidence that pressure does not control you. Chapter 5. Mastering Fear. The hidden enemy of smart choices. Fear is not loud at first. It whispers. What if you fail? What if they judge you? What if this goes wrong? And slowly, that whisper becomes a voice. That voice becomes doubt. And doubt becomes paralysis. Fear is natural. But unmanaged fear distorts thinking. It exaggerates risk. It weakens confidence. It pushes you toward safety instead of growth. And under pressure, fear becomes even louder. In this chapter, we will not eliminate fear. We will understand it. And once you understand fear, you stop being controlled by it. Why fear exists? Fear is not your enemy. It is a survival mechanism. Thousands of years ago, fear kept humans alive. It protected us from predators. It warned us about danger. It prevented reckless behavior. But today, most of your fears are not physical threats. They are psychological threats. Fear of failure, a rejection, embarrassment, a losing money, a losing status, a looking incompetent. Your brain reacts to these as if they are survival dangers. But they are not life-threatening. They are ego-threatening. And that distinction is powerful. Because when you realize your life is not in danger, only your comfort is, fear begins to shrink. Fear versus intuition. Many people confuse fear with intuition. They say, "My gut is telling me not to do this." But sometimes that gut feeling is simply fear of discomfort. Intuition feels calm and clear. Fear feels anxious and urgent. Intuition speaks quietly. Fear shouts. If your body feels tense, rushed, and panicked, that is fear. If your body feels steady, grounded, and certain, that is intuition. Learning to distinguish between the two prevents countless poor decisions. The fear of failure. This is one of the strongest fears in high-pressure moments. What if I fail? Failure feels painful because it attacks identity. You don't just think, "I failed." You think, "I am a failure." But failure is an event. It is not identity. Every high performer you admire has failed repeatedly. The difference? They treated failure as feedback. Fear of failure disappears when you redefine failure. Failure is data. Failure is training. Failure is adjustment. When you remove the meaning from failure, you remove its power over you. The fear of judgment. Humans are social creatures. We care deeply about what others think. But here is a truth. Most people are too focused on themselves to analyze you deeply. The fear of judgment often exists more in your imagination than in reality. And even if someone judges you, does that stop your growth? Does that destroy your ability? Does that define your future? No. Judgment is uncomfortable, but discomfort is not destruction. Mentally strong individuals accept temporary embarrassment for long-term progress. Reframing fear as information. Instead of asking, "How do I eliminate fear?" What is this fear trying to teach me? Fear contains information. If you fear public speaking, maybe you need preparation. If you fear investing, maybe you need financial education. If you fear confrontation, maybe you need communication skills. Fear often points toward growth. The very thing you fear is often the doorway to expansion. Avoiding fear keeps you small. Facing fear makes you stronger. Exposure training. Building courage. Courage is not born. It is built. And it is built through exposure. If you avoid every uncomfortable situation, your fear grows. If you gradually face uncomfortable situations, your fear shrinks. This is called stress inoculation. Start small. Speak up in small groups. Take small risks. Have minor difficult conversations. Your nervous system adapts. What once felt terrifying begins to feel manageable. Fear decreases when familiarity increases. Confidence is built in discomfort. Many people wait to feel confident before acting. But confidence does not come before action. It comes after action. Every time you face fear and survive, your brain records evidence. I handled that. I survived that. I grew from that. Confidence is memory. Memory of previous courage. If you never face discomfort, you never build that memory. And without that memory, fear remains dominant. The cost of living safely. Safety feels comfortable, but excessive safety is dangerous. When you always choose comfort, opportunities pass. Skills remain undeveloped. Growth slows. Regret increases. The pain of growth is temporary. The pain of regret lasts much longer. Fear convinces you that staying safe is smart. But sometimes the greatest risk is never taking one. Fear under pressure. Under high pressure, fear intensifies. Your mind jumps to worst-case scenarios. What if this ruins everything? But here is a powerful question. What if it works? Fear always imagines the negative future. Balanced thinking imagines both possibilities. When fear presents one side of the story, challenge it. Is this fact or imagination? Is this probability or possibility? Is this temporary or permanent? Most fears collapse under questioning. The core truth of this chapter. Fear is not weakness. It is information. But if you allow fear to make decisions, your life becomes smaller. Mentally strong individuals feel fear, analyze fear, reframe fear, act despite fear. They do not wait for fear to disappear. They move with it. And over time, fear loses authority. Because action builds courage. And courage builds mental strength. Chapter 6. Thinking clearly in conflict and criticism. Conflict is emotional. Voices rise. Egos react. Defensiveness appears. And in those moments, your nervous system activates instantly. Your heart beats faster. Your tone sharpens. Your thoughts become aggressive or defensive. Conflict feels like threat. But remember what you learned. Not every threat is danger. Most conflict is not physical danger. It is psychological discomfort. And the person who controls their emotions in conflict controls the outcome. Why conflict feels so intense. When someone disagrees with you, your brain may interpret it as rejection. When someone criticizes you, your brain may interpret it as attack. The amygdala activates. And suddenly, the goal shifts from understanding to winning. But winning an argument is not the same as solving a problem. When ego enters the room, clarity leaves. Conflict becomes destructive when you react before listening. You defend before understanding. You speak to win instead of to solve. Mentally strong individuals slow this process down. The power of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you separate your identity from the situation. Instead of thinking, they are attacking me, think, they are expressing their perspective. Instead of thinking, this proves I'm incompetent, think, this is feedback I can evaluate. Detachment creates space, and space reduces emotional intensity. When you do not take everything personally, you remain powerful. Listening as a strategic tool. Most people listen to respond. Mentally strong individuals listen to understand. There is a difference. When you truly listen, the other person feels respected. Emotional intensity lowers. You gather valuable information. You prevent escalation. Often, conflict escalates because both sides feel unheard. But when you say, help me understand your concern, you shift from confrontation to collaboration. Listening is not weakness. It is strategy. The pause before response. In heated moments, silence is powerful. Not defensive silence. Controlled silence. When someone criticizes you, Your instinct may be to immediately defend yourself. Instead, pause. Breathe. Let the emotional wave pass. This pause does three things. It prevents impulsive words. It shows composure. It gives your brain time to think logically. People respect calm more than aggression. Calm communicates confidence. Handling criticism without collapse. Criticism can feel painful, especially when it touches insecurity. But criticism falls into two categories: constructive, destructive. Constructive criticism contains useful data. Destructive criticism contains emotion or projection. Mentally strong individuals ask, "Is there truth in this? If yes, improve. If no, release it." Not every opinion deserves emotional investment. Your stability should not depend on someone else's mood. Psychological dominance through composure. In any high-pressure interaction, the calmer person often gains influence. Why? Because calm signals control. When you remain steady while others become emotional, you create contrast, and contrast creates authority. This does not mean you intimidate. It means you stabilize the room. Your tone becomes slower. Your words become precise. Your posture becomes relaxed. Composure under pressure communicates leadership, without needing to say it. De-escalation strategy. When conflict begins rising, try this simple framework. Acknowledge. Clarify. Redirect. Acknowledge emotion. I see this is important to you. Clarify the issue. So the main concern is the deadline. Redirect to solution. Let's focus on how we can fix this. Emotion decreases when it feels recognized. Clarity increases when the conversation becomes solution-focused. Conflict does not end by proving someone wrong. It ends by shifting toward resolution. Controlling tone and body language. Words matter, but tone matters more. And body language matters even more than tone. Under pressure, monitor your voice volume, your speaking speed, your facial expressions, your posture. If your tone rises, tension rises. If your tone lowers and slows, others unconsciously mirror you. Calm is contagious. Just like anger is contagious. You decide which energy you spread. Choosing long-term over short-term victory. In conflict, ask yourself, what matters more, being right or preserving the relationship? Sometimes, winning the argument loses the partnership. Sometimes, protecting ego destroys opportunity. Mentally strong individuals think long-term. They ask, what outcome serves my future? Not, what makes me feel powerful right now? This shift transforms how you handle disagreement. The strength of walking away. Not every battle deserves engagement. Some conflicts are fueled by ego, not solution. If a conversation becomes toxic, it is powerful to say, let's revisit this later when we're calmer. Walking away is not surrender. It is emotional maturity. You protect clarity by refusing unnecessary chaos. The core lesson of this chapter: conflict is inevitable, but emotional chaos is optional. When pressure rises in conversations, remember, pause, listen, detach identity from criticism, lower your tone, shift toward solution. The goal is not domination. The goal is stability, because the person who remains calm, while others lose control, becomes the anchor. And anchors do not drift in storms. Chapter 7. Strategic thinking under pressure. Staying 3 steps ahead. Pressure forces most people into reaction. They respond to what is happening right now. They solve the immediate problem. They focus only on survival. But high-level thinkers do something different. They think ahead. They don't just ask, how do I handle this moment? They ask, what will this decision create tomorrow? Strategic thinking is the ability to stay calm enough to see beyond the present tension. And under pressure, this skill becomes rare. which makes it powerful. Why pressure shrinks perspective. When stress rises, your brain narrows its focus. This is survival design. It prioritizes the immediate threat. But modern problems require long-term thinking. If you only focus on immediate relief, you quit too early. You respond emotionally. You protect ego instead of outcomes. You sacrifice future reward for present comfort. Pressure pulls you toward short-term thinking. Strategy pulls you toward long-term vision. Mentally strong individuals resist the pull of short-term emotion. The discipline of second-order thinking. Most people think in first-order consequences. If I say this, I'll feel better. If I quit, the stress stops. If I respond aggressively, I win. But strategic thinkers ask, and then what? This is called second-order thinking. For example, if you respond angrily, then the relationship weakens. Then trust declines. Then opportunities disappear. If you stay calm, then respect increases. Then influence grows. Then long-term outcomes improve. Second-order thinking slows impulsive decisions. It forces you to see beyond emotion. Thinking in scenarios. Under pressure, uncertainty increases. Strategic thinkers prepare for multiple possibilities. Instead of obsessing over one outcome, they ask, what are the 3 most likely scenarios? Scenario 1, best realistic outcome. Scenario 2, most likely outcome. Scenario 3, challenging but manageable outcome. Now you are not trapped in fear. You are prepared. Preparation reduces panic. When the mind sees options, it regains stability. Emotional distance creates strategic clarity. It is difficult to think strategically when you are emotionally involved. So create distance. Imagine advising a friend in the same situation. What would you tell them? Often, you give others better advice than yourself. Why? Because you are not emotionally entangled in their situation. Strategic thinking requires perspective. When you zoom out, clarity increases. Patience as a competitive advantage. In high-pressure environments, most people rush. They want immediate resolution. But patience is strategic power. If you can remain steady while others panic, you gain advantage. Markets reward patience. Negotiations reward patience. Leadership rewards patience. When you do not react instantly, you observe more. And observation strengthens decision quality. Patience is not passivity. It is controlled timing. Detaching ego from outcome. Ego is the enemy of strategy. When ego controls decisions, you ask, how do I protect my image? When strategy controls decisions, you ask, what produces the best outcome? Sometimes the strategic move is admitting error. Sometimes it is staying silent. Sometimes it is changing direction. But ego resists these actions. Mentally strong individuals value outcome over pride. And that creates long-term dominance. Playing the long game. Short-term thinking is emotional. Long-term thinking is strategic. When pressure rises, ask, will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, reduce emotional intensity. Not every moment deserves full emotional investment. Strategic thinkers conserve emotional energy for decisions that truly shape their future. Anticipating consequences before acting. Before making a major decision under pressure, run this mental exercise. If this decision succeeds, what happens next? If this decision fails, what happens next? Can I handle both outcomes? When you mentally walk through consequences, fear decreases because you realize even the worst-case scenario is survivable. And when something is survivable, it becomes less terrifying. Controlling the tempo. In chaotic environments, tempo matters. If the situation is moving too fast, slow it down. Ask for time. Request clarification. Delay response. If the situation is stagnant and fear is causing delay, increase tempo. Set a deadline. Commit to action. Strategic thinking means you control the pace, instead of letting pressure control you. The calm advantage. Strategic thinking under pressure creates a powerful advantage. You see what others miss. When others react emotionally, you analyze. When others panic, you plan. When others focus on immediate relief, you focus on long-term gain. This difference compounds over time, and compound decisions shape extraordinary outcomes. The core lesson of this chapter: pressure tries to trap you in the present moment. Strategy expands your horizon. When you train yourself to think in consequences, see second-order effects, prepare for multiple scenarios, detach ego, play the long game, you stop being controlled by chaos. You begin controlling direction. Mental strength keeps you steady. Strategic thinking moves you forward. And together, they make you dangerous in high-pressure environments. Chapter 8. Failure Under Pressure. How to Recover, Rebuild, and Rise Stronger. Everyone talks about staying strong under pressure, but very few teach you how to recover when things go wrong. And they will go wrong. You will make mistakes. You will misjudge situations. You will freeze. You will choose poorly. Even the strongest minds fail. The difference is not in avoiding failure. The difference is in how quickly you recover. Why failure feels so intense under pressure. Failure under pressure hurts more. Why? Because pressure amplifies meaning. When stakes are high, the brain interprets mistakes as threats to identity. It whispers, "You're not capable. You embarrassed yourself. You ruined everything." This activates the same survival systems we discussed earlier. Your amygdala reacts as if your status, safety, or belonging is under attack. But here's the truth. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. The emotional aftershock. After a mistake, there is usually an emotional wave. Shame, a regret, anger, a self-criticism. Most people get trapped here. They replay the moment repeatedly. This is called rumination. Rumination does not improve performance. It strengthens anxiety. The mind keeps reliving the event as if it can rewrite the past. But recovery requires a shift. From emotional replay to analytical reflection. Separate identity from performance. One of the most powerful mental skills is this. You are not your last decision. Performance fluctuates. Identity should not. If you connect your self-worth to every outcome, pressure becomes unbearable. Strong minds say, "I made a mistake," not, "I am a mistake." This single shift protects mental stability. The three-step recovery process. 1. Stabilize. Before analyzing anything, calm your nervous system. Slow breathing. Physical movement. Silence. Do not evaluate yourself while emotionally flooded. Clarity only returns when the body settles. 2. Extract the lesson. Ask 3 questions. What did I control? What did I not control? What will I adjust next time? This transforms pain into instruction. Without reflection, failure becomes trauma. With reflection, failure becomes training. 3. Re-enter quickly. The longer you wait to act again, the bigger fear becomes. Confidence rebuilds through action. Even small action. Send the next email. Take the next shot. Have the next conversation. Momentum destroys self-doubt. The growth advantage. Pressure exposes weaknesses. Failure highlights them clearly. That is uncomfortable, but also powerful. Every high-level performer studies their losses more carefully than their wins. Because wins confirm, losses improve. If you learn faster than others, you outgrow them. Avoid the 2 dangerous extremes. After failure, people usually fall into one of 2 traps. 1. Overreaction. I will never do this again. They become overly cautious. 2. Denial. It wasn't my fault. They refuse responsibility. Both stop growth. Recovery requires balance. Take responsibility without attacking yourself. Resilience is built through repetition. Mental resilience is not built in comfort. It is built in recovery cycles. Pressure, mistake, reflection, adjustment, action. Each cycle strengthens you. Over time, you fear failure less. And when fear decreases, performance increases. The confidence loop. Here's something powerful. When you prove to yourself that you can survive mistakes, pressure loses power over you. You no longer think, "What if I fail?" You think, "If I fail, I will adapt." That mindset is freedom. Turning setbacks into strategic assets. Sometimes failure gives you something success cannot. Perspective, humility, depth, empathy, wisdom. The strongest leaders are not those who never failed. They are those who failed, learned, and returned stronger. Failure under pressure becomes a competitive advantage, if you use it correctly. The core lesson of this chapter: pressure will test you. Sometimes you will win. Sometimes you will fall. But falling is not the end. Staying down is. When you a separate identity from performance. A reflect instead of ruminate. A re-enter quickly. A extract lessons. A build resilience through repetition. You transform failure into fuel. And once you stop fearing failure, pressure no longer controls you. Chapter 9. Leading under pressure. Becoming the calm in the storm. Pressure reveals character. But it also reveals leaders. When tension rises, people instinctively look around. They search for signals. Is this dangerous? Are we safe? Should we panic? And often, they don't look at the situation first. They look at a person. Leadership under pressure is not about controlling everything. It is about controlling yourself so others can stabilize. Emotional contagion is real. Emotions spread faster than logic. In stressful situations, your nervous system communicates before your words do. If you are frantic, others absorb that energy. If you are steady, others regulate through you. This is called emotional contagion. People mirror the emotional tone of those they trust, which means, as a leader, your calm is not optional. It is responsibility. The 3 pillars of calm leadership. 1. Regulate yourself first. You cannot stabilize others if you are unstable. Before speaking, breathe. Before reacting, observe. Your first job is internal control. Pressure tests your nervous system. Leadership requires mastery of it. 2. Simplify the situation. Under stress, complexity increases anxiety. Great leaders reduce chaos into clarity. Instead of overwhelming people with possibilities, they say, "This is what matters right now." Clear priorities lower fear. When people know the next step, panic decreases. 3. Project constructive confidence. Confidence under pressure does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means communicating belief in the ability to handle it. There is a difference between, "This is easy," and "This is difficult, but we will manage it." The second builds trust. Decision-making for groups under stress. When multiple people are under pressure, problems multiply. A miscommunication. Emotional reactions. A blame. Confusion. Strong leaders prevent escalation. They slow down discussions. They clarify facts. They separate emotion from data. Under pressure, clarity becomes currency. The clearer you are, the safer others feel. The danger of ego leadership. Pressure can inflate ego. Some leaders respond by becoming aggressive. They raise their voice. They dominate. They blame. This may create short-term obedience, but it destroys long-term loyalty. Calm authority is stronger than loud authority. True leadership is quiet strength, stabilizing the group mindset. When pressure hits, groups often shift into fear narratives. This will fail. We're not prepared. This is a disaster. Leaders interrupt negative spirals, not with false positivity, but with grounded realism. They say, "Here is what we know. Here is what we don't know. Here is what we're doing next." Structure reduces emotional chaos, making hard decisions under scrutiny. Leadership under pressure often means choosing without full information, and knowing you will be judged. This is heavy, but waiting for perfect clarity can be more dangerous than decisive action. Mentally strong leaders accept incomplete data, choose based on principles, communicate reasoning clearly, adjust when new information appears. They do not freeze in pursuit of perfection, protecting morale during tough times. In high-pressure environments, morale drops quickly. Fatigue increases negativity. As a leader, you must protect energy. Small acknowledgments matter. Recognize effort. Celebrate progress. Express appreciation. Pressure drains emotional reserves. Encouragement refills them. Leading yourself first. Before leading others, remember, you are also human. Leadership does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional management. Find private space to process stress. Reflect. Reset. Recharge. Because burned-out leaders cannot inspire resilience. The long-term impact of calm leadership. People never forget how you made them feel during crisis. They remember. Did you panic? Did you blame? Did you disappear? Or did you stand firm? Your behavior under pressure becomes your reputation. And reputation compounds. The core lesson of this chapter. Pressure reveals leaders. If you regulate yourself first, simplify chaos, communicate clearly, project grounded confidence, protect morale, separate ego from authority, you become the calm in the storm. And when others feel safe around you, they perform better. In the final chapter, we bring everything together. Not just surviving pressure, not just leading through it, but mastering it as a permanent mental advantage. Take a breath. You are no longer just building strength. You are becoming stability for others. Chapter 10: Mastery Under Pressure. Turning stress into your competitive edge. Pressure is not going away. Life will not slow down. Responsibilities will increase. Expectations will grow. Challenges will evolve. The goal was never to eliminate pressure. The goal is to transform your relationship with it. Because the moment you stop fearing pressure, you start using it. From reaction to mastery. At the beginning of this journey, pressure controlled your nervous system. Now you understand the biology of stress, the psychology of fear, the mechanics of decision-making, the discipline of emotional regulation, the power of strategic thinking, the resilience built through failure, the responsibility of leadership. Mastery begins when awareness turns into habit. Not once, not sometimes, but consistently. Rewiring your pressure identity. Most people identify as, "I'm bad under pressure." That belief becomes self-fulfilling. Your brain looks for evidence to confirm it. But now, your identity shifts to, "I train for pressure." That single change alters everything. You no longer avoid high-stakes situations. You approach them as opportunities to strengthen your mind. Pressure becomes practice, not punishment. The pressure performance cycle. Here is the full mastery loop. Pressure appears. You regulate your nervous system. You clarify the real problem. You think beyond immediate emotion. You act decisively. You reflect and refine. Each cycle sharpens you. Over time, you develop something rare. Composure. And composure under pressure is power. Stress as energy, not threat. Remember this. The physical sensations of pressure, elevated heart rate, heightened focus, alertness, are not weakness. They are energy. The difference lies in interpretation. If you label it fear, performance drops. If you label it readiness, performance rises. Your body prepares you for challenge. Your mind decides whether that preparation is panic or power. Building a personal pressure system. Mastery requires structure. Create your own system. A breathing reset routine. A decision-making checklist. A reflection framework. A recovery ritual after setbacks. When systems replace guesswork, confidence increases. You don't hope to perform well. You prepare to. The competitive advantage of calm. In high-pressure environments, most people rush, overthink, react emotionally, avoid responsibility. If you remain steady while others destabilize, you automatically stand out. Calm becomes your advantage. Clarity becomes your weapon. Consistency becomes your reputation. Over time, opportunities naturally move toward those who handle pressure well. Pressure as a filter. Pressure filters people. Some shrink. Some blame. Some quit. But some rise. And rising does not mean perfection. It means presence. It means staying engaged when others disconnect. It means thinking when others panic. It means acting when others freeze. Pressure reveals mental training. Now, you have it. The long game of mental strength. Mental strength is not a single breakthrough moment. It is accumulated discipline. Daily small decisions. Choosing reflection over reaction. Choosing strategy over impulse. Choosing growth over ego. These small choices compound. Years from now, the difference between you and others will not be talent. It will be composure. The final mindset shift. Do not ask, how do I avoid pressure? How do I become stronger because of it? When you adopt this mindset, everything changes. Interviews become training. Conflicts become growth. Deadlines become sharpening tools. Failure becomes instruction. Leadership becomes impact. Pressure becomes opportunity. The core lesson of this book: pressure does not break you. It exposes your level of preparation. Now you understand how the mind reacts. Now you know how to regulate it. Now you can think strategically. Now you can recover from failure. Now you can lead others. Now you can transform stress into strength. You are not here to live comfortably. You are here to live deliberately. And when pressure arrives, as it always will, you will not freeze. You will not panic. You will not collapse. You will breathe. You will think. You will decide. And you will move forward with clarity. This is mental mastery. This is strength under fire. This is thinking clearly under pressure.